Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good mornings, everybody. Welcome back to English Debates. Today we are going to talk about next discussions. That is about the Asian's parliamentary debates. Yeah, I'll try to explain it in brief, in short, so it will not be so difficult to open it, or it will not burden you with the high bites. Okay, why do we explain about the Asian's parliamentary debates? Because this kinds of debate format is used in the World School Debate Championships, and it's also used in the National School Debate Championships. Yeah, so in Indonesia too, in when you have competitions in levels of senior high school, you will use these kinds of debate formats. That is Asian's parliamentary debates. Okay, now let's go to the formats. The first, that in this format we have two teams of debaters as usual. We call it as a governments and oppositions, and these two teams consist of three speakers. So there will be 6 speakers from both sides. Okay, and then the government starts and the government ends too. So the first turn is for the government to deliver the speech, and then the last in the reply speech, it is also by the governments. Okay. In the sides of the governments, we call the first speaker as a prime minister or PM, while the second speaker we call it as deputy prime minister or DPM, and the third speaker call it as government whips or GW. The same in the oppositions. The first speaker is called as a leader of oppositions or LO. The second speaker called deputy leader of the oppositions, and the third speaker is opposition whip. In these kinds of debates, the topic is called as a resolutions or motions. Yeah. Okay, and then these motions begin with the words like "this House would," or usually we make it short into THW, or "this House believe that," or we shorten it into THBT. Okay, this House. Why use the words "this House"? Because it is, we call it as parliamentary, a kind of parliamentary debate. So the member of debates are as if the member of a parliament. Okay, so it is like when you see in the televisions when the governments propose a certain program to the House of Parliamentary, and then in the parliamentary there will be a debate, especially from the oppositions, who will try to give counter arguments to the governments. So there will be a debate between the government side and the opposition side. Okay, so that's why we call it in the motion always we use this house, etc. Okay, for examples of the motions, for example, this house believes that internet bring more harm than good, or this house would support the rights to do abortions, etc., etc. Okay. Next, the characteristics of Asian parliamentary debates, also POI. In the previous kinds of debates, like in policy debates or in Lincoln's debates, there is a cross-examinations. But in a parliamentary debate, whether it is a British parliamentary or Europeans kinds of parliamentary or Asian parliamentary, there is no cross-examinations, but there's another terms of POI, or points of information. In a POI here, just like a member of parliament, sometimes they have we call it as interruptions to asking or to clarify statements that the last purpose is to actively disagree. Okay, so POI is a question or statement by a member of the opposing team to show that they are listening and to show that they are always actively disagree with the arguments. Next. In the POI, how to do POI? First, you have to stand and raise your left hand and say point of information or POI. It can be rejected or it can be accepted by your opponents. But when your opponents accept it, you had only 15 seconds to say your question or to say about your statement. Never deliver more than 15 seconds. Okay, so you have to be brief in giving questions or giving a statement. Next, POI is allowed in the constructive speech, but not allowed in the reply speech. And it is allowed to have a POI the first and the last 16 seconds of the debates in the sessions of constructive speech. Okay, no, not in in his reply speech. These times we call it as protected time. Okay, when there is no POI in the in the first and the last 16 seconds and during the reply speech. And each speaker should accept at least 2 POIs. So although you had a right to accept or to reject, at least you have to accept 2 POIs. In certain competitions, even it is obligated. It is obligated, diwajibkan. It is obligated to ask or to have a POI, 2 POI, and to accept 2 POI. Okay. Next, this is the arrangements of speaking. So, in the first constructive speech, begin by the Prime Minister from the government, the Prime Minister, and then followed by the leader of opposition, and after that go to the Deputy Prime Minister or the second Speaker of the government, and then go to the Deputy Leader of the oppositions or the second Speaker of the oppositions, and then the third Speaker of the governments or the government whips, and then go to the opposition whip or the third Speaker of the oppositions. Okay, each of the member, whether from the government or oppositions, have 7 minutes to deliver their speech. Okay, and then the last sessions after constructive speech, we call it as a reply speeches. In the reply speeches, no POIs here, and in the reply speeches, begin by leader of the oppositions, by the opposition first. Okay, and then the last followed by the Prime Minister of from the governments. And in these sessions, in reply speech, speaker only have 4 minutes. Okay. Next, so we go to the roles of each speaker in Asian parliamentary debates. What is the roles of the first speaker, second speaker, etc. So you can see in the tables, the Prime Minister or the first speaker of the government, the first speaker should give a definitions. They should give a definitions about the certain terms from the motions. For example, if the motion in this house would support the rights to have abortion, for example, so the Prime Minister should define what is abortions, etc. Okay, so not all the term is explained, but only the key terms that needed to proceed the debate. Okay, and then after that, besides giving the definitions of the key terms, the Prime Minister or the first Speaker of the government should also introduce the themes. We call it the theme lines. Okay, and after that, the Prime Minister should give at least 2 arguments plus the evidence. Okay, and after that, followed by the leader of the oppositions. In this time, the leader of the opposition should give rebuttals. Okay, should give rebuttals, and also the theme line, introduce the themes, and after that give new arguments, 2 new arguments plus the evidence. Okay, so the leader of opposition give the rebuttal first for the arguments of the Prime Minister, and then after that also introduce the member, and then the last give 2 new arguments and plus the evidence. After that, after 7 minutes, we go to the second speaker. That is the deputy of Prime Minister or second speaker of the government. And the second speaker should rebut the arguments from the second speaker of the oppositions, and then give new arguments, 2 new arguments plus the evidence. Okay. After that, go to the oppositions, the second speaker of the oppositions, start to rebut the argument from the second speaker of the governments, and then after that give 2 arguments plus the evidence. Okay, the third speaker from the governments should rebut the arguments from the second speaker of the oppositions. Okay, and then give evidence too. But in these sessions, the third speaker is not allowed to give any new arguments. Okay, remember, the third speaker are not allowed to give the new argument. Yeah. What about if the third broke this rule? It means that lose. Okay. So never breaks the rules. If you break the rules, you certainly will be lost. Next, the opposition's whips or the third speaker from the oppositions have to rebut the argument from the second speaker, and then also give evidence, and the last give a summary, of the arguments they propose. Okay, the summary here, the third speaker should give the points or the summary of the arguments they have from the first speaker and from the second speaker, and then the rebuttals, etc., to show that their arguments are superior than the opponent's argument. The same, the opposition's third speaker also do the same, give a summary of all the arguments they have from the first speaker, and second speaker give rebuttals from the first, second, and the third, etc., showing that the argument is superior. And then the last sessions is the reply speech. The reply speech begin by the leader of the opposition or the first speaker of the oppositions. Yeah, and in this, the first speaker of the opposition here will deliver the speech about why they have to win the debates. In other words, in these sessions, the speaker should convince, should make the judge believe, should make sure that the judge will choose their arguments, will choose their sides to be the winner. Okay. The same in the last sessions of the reply speech by the Prime Minister or the first speaker from the government, yeah, the task is to make sure or to convince the judge that the argument is superior, that they should win because they are stronger in argument, they are stronger in deliverings, etc., etc. Okay, so they deserve to be the winner. Okay, this is the task of every speaker here in the debates. Okay, I think that's all my explanations about Asian parliamentaries that will be used in the National School Debate Championship or the World School Debate Championships. And you should understand it because you will be training a trainer for the high school when you teach them. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much. When you have a question, you can type in the comments, and after this try to comprehend again by watching some videos by the World School Debates Associations. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.